This week on the Computer Chronicles, we take you to Monte Carlo for our final report on the ETRE conference, the European Technology Roundtable and Exhibition. You'll hear why the industry's top executives believe ISP service will soon be free in the United States. Journalists and analysts are voicing increasing concern about privacy issues on the web and so-called click tracking. And do you know why a certain website shows up at the top of your list of search results? It could be because they paid to get there. Plus, we'll tell you about the next generation internet, websites that don't just show you stuff, they do something. And Bill Gates talks about the threat of Linux. Our final report from Monaco coming up next on the Computer Chronicles.
The Computer Chronicles is brought to you by BigStar.com, with thousands of videos and DVDs for the whole family. Additional support by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news. And by TVA, Television Associates, bridging the worlds of computers and video with DVD authoring and MPEG encoding services.
If you come to Monte Carlo in June, you don't really want to be standing so close to the street. That's the time of the year when they run the annual Monaco Grand Prix, when hundreds of Formula One racing cars turn this whole country into one big racetrack. With the Grand Prix, the issues are speed and maneuverability. The same two topics are being discussed here at ETRE.
It is hard to grab a snapshot of the computer and internet industries because they move so quickly. Every executive here at ETRE told the same story of the difficulty keeping up with the incredible rate of change.
The acceleration of timing of all these events is what is staggering. The internet, I think, when we look back a decade from now, we will say, how could we have kept our sanity when the change rate is so high? Here at ETRE, we're seeing corporations who have traditional business models that have been in place sometimes for centuries, who are being asked to revisit, shatter, remold, and reshape, and relaunch business models in months. So this idea of acceleration of time, of compression of experience in the actual business side of what the internet means is staggering.
We just recently did a photo shoot with about 20 of us that are CEOs of internet companies, and I walked around during the photo shoot break and asked the other CEOs, how's it going? I asked every CEO the same question. Their answer was uniformly the same, and they said, we can't get over that the rate of change still is accelerating in our business.
One of the major shifts underway right now is the move away from the standalone PC and toward the information appliance. Oracle's Ray Lane explains the new model with an analogy to airline travel.
No one that travels on private airplanes could ever justify them based on cost, so you don't even try. So the weak argument that a Microsoft would have trying to justify, say, PC computing is low cost, it just isn't believed. Customers just don't believe it anymore. So companies that are deploying NT or NT-based applications and distributing them all over their company not only are experiencing a high-cost business model versus the internet, they also are fragmenting the information in their business. They can't answer questions anymore. So the airplane, to me, was a pretty good example. You know, pay $1,000 to get on a 747 and share that experience when you need it. When you need it with 300 individuals, make the trip, and then you're not paying the cost anymore. So pay as you go.
But despite that argument, PCs have become so inexpensive that many people still want to have their data and their applications under their control. Bill Gates thinks the continuing popularity of PCs has to do with more than just lower prices.
Part of it is the new application. So the price coming down, I'd say that's valuable, but I'd say digital music, digital photos, digital video, great games, great educational software, those things are every bit as important. And the volumes we're talking about here are big volumes. There aren't that many things that sell 100, that cost over, say, $500 and sell 100 million units a year. The PC is one of the few. And so any increment, 10, 20, 30% growth is quite phenomenal.
Great new applications and lower costs may be driving PC sales, but there is also tremendous growth in inexpensive servers and new internet appliances. And that is being driven by low-cost alternatives to Windows like Linux.
Well, Linux is definitely a competitor of ours because it's an operating system out there that a lot of people are enthused about, and the fact they can get the source code, play around with it, do new things with it. From a feature set point of view, it's basically Unix. Unix, of course, has been around for a long time, and the Unix world never kind of got its act together. It was always very fragmented between AIX and Solaris and Linux and BSD and dozens of flavors. Now there's a little bit more of a coalescing. You know, Solaris and AIX are still not part of it, but I'd say there's a community of people who coalesced around Linux. And so it is getting into some of the appliances and other things.
Oracle's Ray Lane says the party's over for desktop applications, that the new world is all about web-delivered apps.
Customers I've already seen it. They've already reversed their position. Customers that we argued with a year ago about, well, wait a minute, we're going to distribute computing, we're distributing NT into servers and desktops and all that, today say, I was always thought the network was the right way to go, the internet. I will not buy any more software that sits on my desktop. I want only an internet browser, and those are the only applications I'll deploy.
Yahoo's Tim Kugel agrees. He sees the world of the next decade as being one in which a variety of appliances take the place of today's general-purpose PC.
Our goal ultimately is to allow our users easy access to Yahoo, no matter what device they use or what access point they use. And tactically, we've been doing a number of things, including we purchased a small technology company in California that's written an API level to allow us to publish on behalf of our users to any portable device. We're making use of that now through relationships with both carriers as well as access device companies to build a presence on all of those. And we'll continue to do that. You know, Yahoo is access device and access means agnostic. We just want to be in front of as many users as possible, independent of what they use to get on the web.
Oracle is also moving in that direction with a new product called Portal to Go.
We've announced a new product that we call Portal to Go. And Portal to Go is the ability to take any internet application, so an application that sits on a server, and reformat it for any protocol on any type of telephone or Palm device. So any internet compatible device, like a telephone, like a television, like a Palm Pilot, then can look at applications that sit on enterprise servers.
But Bill Gates is not sitting still while everyone moves to an internet application model. Microsoft has also announced that it will be developing internet-based software.
That's actually extremely profound. And the fact that Microsoft is beginning to move into a cross-operating system play, even though he talked about everything being a function of Windows. In fact, what they're doing there is, for Microsoft, a major shift, potential shift, because it appears through some of these protocols they're starting to support that people will be able to develop applications using XML and doing things on the web that don't require Windows.
The Principality of Monaco is a tiny country wedged in between France and Italy. And while Europe is behind the United States in many aspects of internet technology, it has taken the lead in one area, offering free ISP service.
This is a contradiction and one of those paradoxes which exist in the technology industry. The most advanced territory, internet territory, has the most backward ISP model, or most traditional, and the most retarded internet society has a very leading edge model. This is interesting. This is really interesting. And I think that we will see that free ISPs will become commonplace.
Some people will have free ISP service, and the word free applied to anything connected with technology should be put in quotes, because it's not free. It's a transaction going on there. In the case of free ISPs and PCs, the cost to you is your time, screen space, or privacy, or all of the above in terms of dealing with advertising and collection of data about you, and people should recognize that.
According to David Weatherall, CEO of CMGI, a conglomerate which owns such websites as Lycos and AltaVista, free ISP service in the States is inevitable because, in fact, it doesn't cost very much.
ISPs don't need to have routers and modems and people to maintain those routers and modems because they can outsource all of that for less cost and spend their time on offering free access and make money off the advertising, sponsorship, and slotting fees. And that model does work. It is a profitable model, and I think every ISP eventually will have to follow that model down the road, or they'll run the risk of losing their customers, because who's going to pay when they can get it for free and it's just as good a quality.
ISPs may also offer free service because as your gateway to the internet, they have lots of power. Net Zero is a good example.
They have the capability to sell banner ads that show up when you're surfing competitive websites. You're on Amazon and all of a sudden a Barnes & Noble ad shows up. That is very powerful. That puts a lot of power in the hands of Net Zero and the advertisers that go through that network to poach customers.
Another reason why ISP service will soon become free is that your internet provider will probably also be your phone company or your cable company.
What's going to happen in the U.S. eventually is that all forms of telecom services will probably be bundled by a small number of really powerful companies, WorldCom and AT&T being the most notable. And internet access will be invisible to the user because it'll be sold along with wireless, long distance, and local service. Whether that means it's free or not, I don't know, but it certainly won't be the headache it is now to pay $20 a month, or like me, I happen to have cable modem service for $40 a month. It's a pretty big, chunk of change.
Besides becoming free, internet service is going to change in other ways. For example, while today we have the ability to customize a website like My Yahoo, it's still a static, non-dynamic personalization. But a new site called MyWay.com is pioneering a whole new level of intelligent customization.
Customization up to now in the portal space has meant, My Alta Vista, My Yahoo, My Lycos, where you can customize one screen to pull in the information you're interested in. MyWay is the first dynamic HTML-based portal where every screen can be customized by yourself, but also it's adaptive. So we use engaged clickstream profiles to kind of monitor your pattern and what your interests are. So instead of having to specify what sports teams you're interested in when you look at a scoreboard, the ones you click on the most will be at the top of the scoreboard.
Dynamic personalization will also make e-commerce sites more powerful, but iVillage's Candace Carpenter says there will always be a place for old-fashioned in-store shopping.
I believe that there's a kind of shopping that belongs in stores. Versace gowns should be an in-person experience. But I think buying your fourth pair of Gap jeans in the same size and color, why would you want to go take that time out of your life? Why wouldn't you want to go to something that had all that recorded and you just push a button? So what I think is the shopping experience will begin to really bifurcate into things which are truly pleasurable shopping experiences, and then the internet will replace those things which are mostly annoying shopping experiences for people because they're repetitive and exhausting, and all of us have had those shopping experiences. The internet will replace those completely, I'm sure.
Even the way websites deal with content will be changing in the future. For example, at Newsweek, they've taken a totally fresh look at the internet and invented a brand new model, the special edition website, tied to a specific event.
At Newsweek.com, we've discovered that the web is perfect for doing sort of special issue websites the way you do special issue magazines. We're doing one, for example, around the ITU convention in Geneva, where the website just goes up for basically 4 weeks. A little bit before, we do daily coverage from Geneva, then we leave it up for another week or two. Of course, it's archived permanently, because you can do that on the web, but it's really meant just to be a live website for a few weeks.
And Mike Rogers says Newsweek plans to apply this model to general news events in the future.
If you can identify short-term events that appeal to a specific demographic, because much of the interest here is how do you get sponsorship? How do you get sponsors interested? And you need to identify a demographic. But the dream is, once we get good at doing these special issue websites, we could do a special issue website around a news event. We could simply decide that if there's a big enough news event, whether it's a planetary landing or some natural disaster, that we could build out an entire website that follows it in a very intense way, much more intense than we could within the website that's generally Newsweek.
In general, websites will become more interactive, more functional. A good example, again, is iVillage, where Candace Carpenter says women are looking for more than just information. They want decision support.
our feeling is that if I'm busy and I'm trying to get something done, I'd rather get it done than just read about it. And I think I learned a lot from Scott Cook at Intuit, which is one of the great utilitarian brands in the world, the Quicken, who said, you know, utility means you get something off someone's to-do list forever. It's done. That's really our goal at iVillage, is whether you are looking at as I said, adoption, negotiating a raise, whatever issue, big or small, car, you know, kid-friendly car, a mortgage, you can actually get it done on iVillage and then move on. You know, you're not just reading about it and then get offline and you still got the problem.
Carpenter thinks women, in fact, are a more demanding audience than the internet population as a whole, and that they want more than content, they want a functional community.
Women tend to talk to each other when they make decisions, and so what we've done is to incorporate that element into the internet. But our community is very action-oriented, problem-solving oriented. It's not really hanging out. It's like, I want to get this done. Has anyone had this experience, and can you advise me on how to do this?
Another coming change on the internet is in the area of web broadcasting. There are now hundreds of web radio music stations online, but David Wetherill says the early model was for them to just copy broadcast radio. The new model is pure internet.
Instead of taking a broadcast.com approach where we just put up lots of streams on the web which you can listen to, which is obviously something people like, we're putting radio stations up with their own websites, and in those websites are playlists for the last 3 hours, so we know what the radio stations are playing, and with that database we can provide a customized radio experience, so you can specify what song or artist you'd like to hear across those radio stations, and it will find them and stream them to you and even alert you like a buddy coming online in a buddy list as to what other artists are there being played that you're interested in, so you can pick and switch or see the words to the music or purchase the CD.
And of course, the internet is going to become more like television. Already dozens of startups are positioning themselves to become the first successful entertainment channel on the web. One of them is CMGI's iCast.com.
iCast is designed to be a comprehensive entertainment portal. We think the largest broadcast company in the world will end up being on the internet. It's our goal to make iCast that company over time. It's not going to be there day one, but you know, we're putting together a number of different channels of entertainment in a new way, with some new technology that will allow you to leverage the power of the internet better for entertainment. And we have a strong relationship with Compact Computer through the Alta Vista acquisition. We developed a strategic partnership there whereby they're bundling some of the iCast tools into the PCs, and we have preferential buttons on the keyboard that are factory preset to point to a variety of our sites, and those sites will include iCast.
One of the more innovative new web search engines is called GoTo.com. It is a search engine with a difference. The results you get don't depend on just matches to keywords or phrases, but on how much the various websites have paid GoTo to get top ranking in your search results. GoTo's CEO, Jeff Brewer, explains the model.
We're aligned in interest with both the consumers and the advertiser, with the buyer and seller, because we make money when consumers find what they're looking for, and when an advertiser gets a high-quality targeted lead, it's likely to develop into a customer relationship.
Brewer says if eBay is the classifieds of the web, GoTo is the web's yellow pages. Advertisers pay for access to customers.
So take a search term like fly fishing. Fly fishing, a term that's searched on thousands of times a month, a really great, vertical, very interested parties that are doing that search. We have 25 advertisers who have said, I want to be there when somebody types in fly fishing, and here's what I'm willing to pay for a click-through, a customer acquisition opportunity. We order those results by how much they're willing to pay.
But the GoTo model has its critics.
I personally hate it.
Dan Gilmore says a vendor should not be able to pay its way onto the top rung of a search result.
GoTo is quite frankly about who pays the most to get the eyeballs, and if it works, more power to them, but I don't think it will be the end all of these kinds of things, because some people can obviously afford to pay more, and it doesn't necessarily make them the most relevant.
But there are two sides to this story. Listen to venture capitalist Steve Jurvetson.
When you search for something on almost any website, you get 1 million results. Completely useless, reams and reams of data. And the first few results are gibberish. If you go to goto.com, just give it a try. Search for anything you're looking to buy, look for anything information you're looking for, and I promise you, you'll find results in the top 10 listings that are much better than any other site. What's more is GoTo, in fact, wants you to get to what you're looking for as quickly as possible. If you go to GoTo and you search for something, they are delighted if the first click you make gets you where you want to go and you'll never come back. They make money doing that. Yahoo makes money by serving page view after page view. So they give you 10 result listings at a time. If it's not in the first 10, you push a button, next 10, push a button, next 10. GoTo gives you a huge list of listings, look at them all, find where you want to go, get out of there, where you're going.
You know, the big problem in that model is that very often funding doesn't mean execution. So those guys may very well deliver in, let's say, take a very bad example, a great company which has received $200 million in venture capital and have it coming on the site immediately. However, what will happen is that at the end of the day, the consumer is not happy, and it will harm goto.com. So I'm not certain that the model has a lot of viability.
Is the model somehow wrong because people are paying to get there? Well, it's only wrong if you lie to people. And we put the price there that shows exactly how much the advertiser is willing to pay for the click-through. So it's just like the Yellow Pages. Advertising that's relevant and disclosed to you can be really valuable.
What many internet users don't know is that other search engines also often have a financial relationship with the top hits they return.
I think GoTo has the virtue of having been very upfront about their commercial relationships. I think I'm a little less impressed with the way that many of the big portals have actually got relationships with vendors that they don't disclose nearly as clearly to the customers, so that you might search for a product on a big portal and not fully realize that the results you're getting are really from companies that have paid them to be listed, and in fact the prices you're getting might by no means be the best.
The whole argument over goto.com is really just one piece of a broader internet debate that took place here at ETRE. Are human beings just eyeballs to be traded and exploited for money? The issue comes up most clearly in the arguments over privacy on the web and click tracking. Here, for example, is the full internet value chain model according to CMGI's David Weatherall.
We try to start by capturing as many eyeballs as possible through companies like Lycos and AltaVista, which are reaching a large percentage of the web, and then with another company, Engage Technologies, collecting the click streams that people make across thousands of websites to create aggregate interest profiles so that we can better target people's interests when we do get those eyeballs coming through our sites and sites of our customers. If you're successful in targeting those eyeballs, hopefully you can make more revenue from advertising, sponsorships, e-commerce, which are also going to feed into product fulfillment, where we have a fulfillment company, back-end customer service.
That may sound like a good business model, but there are people who don't like it.
It somehow gives me the creeps, but then a lot of the internet commerce models give me the creeps because their idea of you and me is that we're not people, we're a pair of eyeballs plus a credit card and a bunch of data.
I think it's very easy for people in the internet business to begin to think of the audience purely as numbers. Even though it seems like such a personal kind of environment, and it is, at the same time, it's very mechanical, and you're counting their clicks. You are observing them almost the way you observe insects in a science experiment, and you can begin to think, I can drive the people to do this, I'll drive them to do that, I will make them click here. And this sense of personification, I guess you'd call it, is a real danger.
It shocks me. I get more email when I do a privacy column than almost anything else. And it's from people who are just convinced they are being the targets of data rape in some sense, and it really bothers them. But they clearly feel helpless, and it's apparent that the tech industry has bought and paid for government to leave them alone.
As worrisome as click tracking may be in the hands of the private sector, Alex Vieux worries about that same technology being potentially used by the government.
I am always worried when the public authorities and enforcement authorities start to use those tools to spy on citizens. And you start there, you don't know where you finish, and a world spy society is not a society I want to be living in.
Newsweek's Mike Rogers says increased government involvement in the internet is a real possible threat to young web entrepreneurs who have never had to think about government regulation. Indeed, Rogers says the feds could be more dangerous to competition than Microsoft.
For example, when we look at illegal gambling on the internet replacing government lotteries, governments are not going to be happy about that because clearly they like their lotteries. They are going to go after illegal gambling. Now, the internet entrepreneur may simply view the government as another competitor, but there's a fundamental difference between the government as a competitor and, say, Microsoft as a competitor. And the difference is the government has armies. I often wonder if someday, 3 or 4 years from now, we'll be doing panels here at ETRE on what to do when the army goes after your server.
It was clear here at ETRE that the technology industry is changing in a fundamental way. Perhaps Fortune magazine's David Kirkpatrick put it best.
The companies that are at this conference and are at other technology conferences these days are companies that really aren't here to sell you X. They're companies that are trying to really transform the way the world is organized. And you know, the discussions that I've been having with people at this conference are much more about really fundamental issues that almost get into issues of philosophy and politics and human relations than they are about, you know, the next box that Michael Dell will sell and what the price is going to be. And I just think that's fascinating to note.
The calm Mediterranean Sea here off the coast of Monaco is a striking contrast to what will no doubt be very turbulent seas in the future of the high-tech industry. With billions of dollars invested in the future of the internet, there will no doubt be storms, very high waves, and some seemingly sturdy ships are going to sink. The issue is who has built the best model and who has the resources to weather the storm. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Computer Chronicles. I'm Stewart Cheifet in Monte Carlo.
The Computer Chronicles is brought to you by BigStar.com, with thousands of videos and DVDs for the whole family. Additional support by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news. And by TVA, Television Associates, bridging the worlds of computers and video with DVD authoring and MPEG encoding services.
To purchase a videotape copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-310-7850. Please specify the show number and the topic.